Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Weekly Shonen Jump Breakdown for the week of October the 23rd. My name is Trey. This is the Full Spectrum. Kylo's blocking the glare. We got Waluigi. We're ready to go. So let's get started. We start off this week with Full Drive, which is another Jumpstart series. And the Jumpstarts, of course, are when they're adding some newer series, letting you see what new things are being made, and giving them a 3-chapter test run, where after the end of 3 chapters, the series will either continue in Jump, or it will move to some of the other magazines that Jump happens to own. Some series don't even make it into the other magazines. Some have to go alone, have to go it on their own, because they just didn't make the cut with Jump. And it's why those surveys are so important. So please make sure that if you're reading Jump, you always do your surveys. Into actual Full Drive itself, though, Full Drive is a table tennis ping pong animation. Not ping pong the animation. Table tennis ping pong manga. Sports manga. About your main character, Dan Tamashiro, and how he is attempting to make his name in Japan. And what I love the most about this chapter, and I'm one of those people that happens to absolutely love, when two characters go all out against each other and are clearly having a great time fighting each other in a competition. All that said, though, my favorite part of this chapter was Dan deciding that he wanted to make his own name. That his grandpa's name was nice, but that his name was what he cared about. And everything to do with him, with his grandpa, and learning how to be courageous and more bold by playing table tennis against his grandpa, who used to be a world champion. Like, that's crazy cool to me. Also, Hagen Wolf is a good name. Dan Tamashiro is a good name, too, don't get me wrong. And I'm really happy that they didn't go with, like, Okami something. That they didn't go for the obvious wolf puns that they could make. And they didn't even go for any moon puns or anything. It's pretty good. I really appreciated that. Because clearly when you have a name like Hagen Wolf, you could go for something more lupine. But they didn't. And I really appreciated that, actually. I'm not super sold on Marin Shiraishi, but her interactions with Dan are pretty interesting. Especially once they start, she's obviously a tsundere, but once they start actually having their match, and she's clearly getting into it, and when he's asking for her to rev it up, that he hasn't had enough yet, she is having a blast. And I loved that. I loved that clearly she loves playing ping pong. She loves to dominate her side of the table. And her style is completely different from Dan's. She plays extremely close to the table, and she reacts to attacks as they happen instead of reacting to them when they get to her side of the table. Whereas Dan's is step back from the table where he can make full use of his big swings. So I thought that was a really nice touch. Past that, Matsuzaki was an interesting character. He's clearly going to be the reporter guy that loves ping pong and wants to know everything he can about his main character. But at the same time, he seems to actually have a genuine friendship, almost, with Marin Shiraishi. And that's interesting to me, because normally those characters aren't allowed to actually be friends with people till, like, the end of the series. Early on, they have to have that distance so they can watch them from afar. And, But I really enjoyed this chapter. I really want to see more. I thought that the loop drive looked great. And the full drive, it was a very busy panel. And you didn't even really get to see the shot as much as just his reaction to it. But the loop drive was really cool. And then, of course, at the end of the chapter, we get the whole, they're going to an academy because she goes to a school for table tennis. And I'm like, okay, this could either be great, or this could be what kills the series. And I'm hoping it's the former. I'm hoping that Dan gets there, and there's a lot of people for him to challenge, and he makes some friends along the way, and everything's cool. But I'm afraid that it's going to be, now we're going to be at this school for the rest of the series. It's like, no, that's not what I wanted out of this. I wanted this to be more like Ippo. There were a couple really cool things that I noticed, too, that I wanted to mention. Specifically, when Marin sees Dan's muscles, And she's immediately like, oh man, one of his sides is like way more defined than the other. Like, what is that? Oh, he must be really good. And it just shows that he's practiced a lot. I've never considered that about people that play table tennis. Because, yeah, if you only use one side, guess what? That one side is going to get out of proportion. So, I really appreciated that. And then, everything to do with them both being super excited on basically a battle high from the match. And him going for the handshake and her just smacking his hand to shake it because she wants to shake it so bad. Because she had such a blast playing with him. Like, that's a nice touch, too. These characters are still human. They're not the... that was a good match. They're excited. And you guys know that's why I love Suzaku from Rollout Laserbeam. But we'll get back to Suzaku later. So yeah, Full Drive, Chapter 1, Dan Tamashiro, very much enjoyed it. I really hope it does well, because I do love me some sports manga. And I want to see this one continue. If not, I'll have to read it separately. So, yeah, good job. One Piece 882, Beyond the Emperor's Expectations. Katakuri is terrifyingly strong. Like, we knew this already, but Brûlé starts hyping him up. And Brûlé starts talking about how he's never been knocked on his back once. And at first I was like, man, this is a bit much. Like, Katakuri's already proven himself to be super tough. We don't really need to hear that he's never once touched the ground. But when you look at it from the side of this is Brûlé, a character who has come to close to death fairly often over the course of this arc, as she's been kidnapped by the Straw Hats and put in plans she didn't want to be a part of, you look at that and you go, okay, so Brûlé has been probably worried for a while. Now she knows they've won, basically, because she's still underestimating them. And here is her strongest big brother. And she wants Luffy to know that. It's like, okay, I can understand where she's coming from. I'm curious how much of this is true. Because immediately Katakuri's like, Brûlé, stop. Stop. And it's like, okay, is this true? If so, that's fine. Again, I feel like it's a bit much, but I don't have any great problem with it. But it could also just be Brûlé blowing smoke and being like, that's my big brother. He took down the moon one time. And I love that, we've mentioned it before, that Katakuri's whole thing here is that he just wants to protect his family. And so when Luffy tries to stop Brûlé from talking, Katakuri gets in the way. And it really puts this whole arc into perspective, because the biggest mistake the Big Mom Pirates have made, and we'll talk about it again in a little bit, the biggest mistake they made is underestimating the Straw Hats. And Katakuri clearly doesn't do that anymore. He knows that, Luffy is... He's stopping Luffy from reaching Brûlé because he wants to protect his sister. We also find out that Katakuri's spear is named Mole. And the early translations that I saw from Jaimini's box was Mogura, which is Earth Dragon, which is a really cool name. Nope, this one's just Mole. And it's Mole because, using Mochi, he can spin it really quickly and stab through things with it. It's like, okay, yep, that's a pretty good reason to call it Mole. I got you. Yeah, I'm with you here. Yep. All right. We also have the reveal that Brûlé overheard Luffy talking, which makes sense because she controls the mirrors and he was using a mirror. It makes a lot of sense. And that she knows that the Straw Hats are still alive, and she immediately passes that message on to Perospero. Perospero, of course, is like, no, they can't be alive. I crushed them. And then Brûlé says basically that, no, they're going to Cacao Island just like the rest of us. They don't know it's our final destination. And Perospero immediately is like, let's go! And Big Mom goes, nope. I'm still hungry, and there's Nuts Island over there. So, sorry, people of Nuts Island. Raise my Dr. Pepper to you, because you guys are dead. I loved, though, that we got to see everything to do with the Candy Wave and how Big Mom put a soul in it. Now it's a homie. And that's why it's able to do those things. It's still the candy monster that Perospero made. But it's unaffected by the water because Perospero's powers and the soul that Big Mom put into it. And that's why I was able to make that wave. And I love that. I love that we finally get confirmation that Her powers don't just work where she could put a soul into water. She put it into the candy monster. And she's been writing on that this whole time, which is what we all assumed, but it's nice to have clarification, because it will stop all the wars later on Reddit and sites like that, where people are like, oh no, Big Mom can touch water, there's devil fruits, and The best part of this chapter for me, though, was absolutely Baron Tamago telling Mondor they have to stop underestimating the Straw Hats. And you see Mondor just be like, no, we've beaten them already. They can't stand up to us. And Tamago's like, what about the castle? What about the castle? Come on, man. Like, so much has happened. Peckham's is over there just wailing because Pedro's dead. And I really, really, really hope that Pedro's dead. We have Katakuri and Luffy facing off again. It looks like Luffy's going to go gear 4th. We have everything to do with... I didn't even bring it up yet. How did I not bring that up yet? Everything to do with Germa 66 and Niji pulling a Mr. Prince as they take out one of the Big Mom Pirates' crews. And I should have written his name down because it didn't strike a chord with me. But Niji immediately pretends to use his voice and tells them that everything's fine, the Straw Hats got away, but that Germa 66 has been destroyed. And then they set sail. It was like, oh, I love that callback. Because of course they would do that too. Of course they would. Why wouldn't they? It makes perfect sense. It's just such a good callback. But this is a really, really good One Piece chapter. A lot happened, and we covered a lot of ground in 18 pages. And I'll bring that up again later, because it was 18 pages. But we will move on for now. Next up is My Hero Academia 157, Infinite 100%. If you want to talk about a chapter that gets you hype, it's this one. We have a panel of Chisaki looking like he's reaching through the screen, which is crazy good to me. We have Deku thrown skyward as he uses One for All to get Eri out of the way, breaking his legs, and yet he can stand up in a couple seconds? This is when Night Eye has foreseen already that Deku's gonna die. But there's a thing that Night Eye didn't know about that I wonder, now that Mirio's willpower has gotten through to her, if Eri's powers are circumventing what Night Eye saw, or if something else still has to happen to do that. Because if Night Eye saw all of this, then man, there's no wonder he got so distracted, because that's crazy. We see Chisaki fuse with another one of his henchmen to become this gigantic monster. And I'll admit, I wasn't super hype about that. I was really happy when it was this more down-to-earth fight still. Because I still don't think of Deku as like an all-star superhero level. And having Deku now fighting this giant creature, it's like, okay. I mean, sure. Why not? Why not? But at the same time, even with this giant creature, the revelation that Eri's powers are restoring Deku, and restoring him so much that he could cease to exist, that leads to Deku deciding that he has to just use everything that he can and keep breaking himself so that Eri can keep repairing him at a rate faster than she can repair him so that he doesn't stop existing, and going 100% full cowl? Oh, the hype. It should be illegal to cliffhang chapters like this. Oh, I want to see that fight. And we will, but I want to see it. There are a lot of little small moments too, though. You have Deku telling Eri that her quirk is kind-hearted. And she starts crying. Because Chisaki's been telling her all this time that it's a curse, that it's the worst. He even tells Deku that the only way to stop it now is to destroy her. To obliterate her. And it's like, man, you gotta calm down. Overhaul, calm down, buddy. Like, he is so angry. But he needs her for his plans, and that's why he wants to get her back so bad. Which, of course, is why the heroes can't let her go back at all. You have little moments like Arakara saying that she is going to defy the future just like Deku did, basically. You have that Tsuyu is going to go try and save Mirio before he dies, which is great. And then it looks like Ryuko and Arakara and Night Eye want to help. And Night Eye basically tells him, hey, get me to the surface. I don't know what he's going to try and do. I don't know if he's going to try and take the hit that was going to kill Deku, or what's going to happen there, but I'm very excited to see where this goes. As I have been all arc. I mean, honestly, this arc was great. I've talked before about how so far it's been one of my favorite arcs in Shonen altogether. And I really hope that it doesn't fall apart at the end, because I'm afraid it might. It wouldn't take much, to be honest. It wouldn't take much. I could see it already. If Night Eye gets in the way of the attack, and then instead of obliterating him, Chisaki fuses with Night Eye, and then Deku goes to attack him, and he brings up something from Night Eye, maybe fixes his glasses or something, and then Deku stops, and then one of his legs is blown off or something by Overhaul, and then Ares got to heal it. I can already see where this arc would just fall apart at the end, and I don't want that to happen, because it has been really, really solid so far. But I have faith in Horikoshi. Horikoshi has done a great job writing My Hero Academia so far. So I have faith that it'll all work out. Next up, we have the Promised Neverland 60 Goldy Pond. We get a really cool layout of the shelter in the cover page, or the back cover page. And then we get to see everybody getting ready to work hard without everybody around. You get a really good gag, which is everybody's going, I hope Emma and Ray are doing okay. And they're running. And I was like, oh man, right off the bat, something's attacking them. No, Nameless Man just immediately started running as soon as he left the shelter, because he wants to run across this wasteland. I love that his whole thing is, oh, we could take longer to do this, but we're not going to. Because it's played off as a gag, but I guarantee you it's for a reason. There are people or creatures that he doesn't want to see. Specifically doesn't want to see them hanging around the shelter with. And so he's gone. He's moving. He's out. You also have that map. And I wish we'd got a full layout of the map. Of course, we're not going to yet. It's too early. But you get the map with all the X's on it. And all the X's, maybe those are spots where demons are. And maybe they're not. That could be almost anything. And I love that. There's also a really, really good subversion here where we think we're following Ray's thoughts. And then we flip the page, and nope, it's the Nameless Man saying, I bet that's what they're thinking right now. Because I was sold. I thought they were Ray's thoughts when I was taking down my notes. I was like, and Ray is excited for the journey ahead and thinking about how they need to outsmart the Nameless Man. And then, nope, it was the Nameless Man calling it. Because I guarantee you that's what they were thinking. We have Emma wanting to try and understand him. Ray thinks that's naive. But at the same time, we've seen Emma not afraid to do what she has to when she has to. And so I feel like it's not as naive. I feel like maybe Emma has seen something in him. I do understand where Ray's coming from. But I trust Emma almost implicitly at this point. If she thinks that there's something she can do with somebody, then she'll do it. I don't think they'll wind up winning the Nameless Man over. What I think instead will happen is that slowly over time he'll grow to be more accustomed around them, and then he will probably die saving them. Because they lose all the adults that are important to them in this story. Finally, we end off the chapter with this great shot of this forest they're about to go through. And the Nameless Man tells them that they have to make it through as quick as possible. And to stick with him, because there are man-eaters about. And you get a shot of the man-eaters, and they look so cool. Man, do they look cool. Very excited to see the journey through the forest. This was another setup chapter, but it was a setup chapter that had some good gags and some good payoffs. We talked about how One Piece made great use of 18 pages this week. 18 pages is what most things got this week. And as you'll see, a lot of that was really short. This chapter specifically felt really short. But there were enough good gags and good moments that I felt like it was okay. Just not that much to talk about with it, honestly. Yeah, good chapter. Moving on, we have Lycopene 3, The Mysterious Compact, and a day in Lycopene's life. So again, we've talked before, this is a gag manga. This is the last time it's going to be in Shonen Jump, unless it does well with the polls. Otherwise, it'll move to the Jumpstart, to the other avenues. Mei has to watch as Lycopene breaks her phone after he's playing around with it. And there are some really good jokes at the start of this chapter, where they start playing a gacha game, and she's never seen the gacha game before, and then when the phone goes over the cliff, Lycopene dives over after it because he can fly. He can't fly. He falls and gets super badly injured. And then he makes a joke that says that if he was the first son, he wouldn't be hurt, but since he's the second son, he's hurt. It's a really good joke. I can't laugh at it as hard as I did the first time again, but it's a really good joke. You also get the description of this manticore. And, you get body of a lion, body of a goat, head of a lion, tail of a snake, voice of Hiroshi. And then that is one sweet voice. It's like, okay, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Mei finds out she can come to Utopia by being the straight man in the gag. Which, my favorite guy in the gag is the straight man. That's what Shinpachi does in Gintama. And it's almost always hilarious to me. Even though it's mainly just a bunch of yelling now that I think of it. It's still pretty funny to me that something about the idea of calling out how ridiculous a joke is gets me every time. The other half of the story of this chapter is getting to meet Lycopene's family. And you meet Granny and Papa Lycopene, and you get this really good gag where Mei thinks that they're carrying cookies or biscuits or something for Papa, but it's actually burnt DVDs of Kimono Friends, obviously a reference to Kimono Friends. And R.I.P. Kimono Friends. And you have Papa making clouds with 3D software. And then the best gag of the chapter, other than the second son one, because that one was the best in my opinion, which is Mei's leaving and Lycopene's leaving, and he's talking about how great his dad is, and she goes, wait, hold on a second. Isn't that worker exploitation? Because, unbeknownst to myself, even though I was seeing it unfold before me, absolutely it is. They're bringing him his lunch because he has to eat at work. He clocks out and then goes back to do more work and doesn't get to go home. Like, you clearly see the trend here. And I loved that reveal. And then that Mei doesn't say anything to Lycopene about it. It's great. So yeah, this was a pretty solid chapter. I liked a lot of the gags in it. Next up we have We Never Learned 36. Sometimes poignant solitude and X can be the downfall of a genius. This is also 18 pages. I just want to point that out. This is 18 pages. And it's crazy the difference that someone making use of their 18 pages can do versus when the 18 pages are not used well. And we have a full chapter here of Ogata going to a movie and getting scared. And we have her calling Yuiga, who was about to go take a bath at home and was super relaxed, or not calling, texting him with just help me. And so he's gone. He gotta go, something's wrong. He's gotta go help her. Only to find out that she's scared because she's never watched a horror movie before. She wasn't expecting it. And I really like that she is just freaked out the entire chapter. That no matter what Yuiga does, it doesn't stop her from being freaked out. She's happier with him around and feels more comfortable with him around. Because of course she is. We already know that she loves him. But I love that she is scared. Because it's so easy to go, she shouldn't be that scared. It was just a movie. But we've all been there at some point. And I remember as a kid watching The Fly when I shouldn't have watched it. I was scared for weeks. I was horrified. Let's not even talk about Poltergeist and that creepy clown doll. Anyway, the point of the story is that she is terrified. And so she wants Yuiga to hang around. And you get some really good gags here, where she has to take a shower, and Yuiga does not want to look. And so because he catches himself peeking at one point, because he can't see through the glass, but he can see the outline. And of course he has to be in the bathroom, because if he's not, she'll be even more scared. And so then he decides just to close his eyes and not think about it. And of course when he closes his eyes, it's all he thinks about, because he's still a guy. And so then he goes into his happy place, basically, where he starts thinking about history. And she has to basically burst out of the shower because he's not listening when she asks if he's there, and she's scared. At the same time, Sekijo comes through the door because Ogata texts everyone she knows, apparently. And Sekijo immediately is like, "Take care of my best friend, Yuiga!" And runs off because she gets the wrong idea. Because of course she does. He's in the bathroom while Ogata's taking a shower. Of course she gets the wrong idea. That's not a misunderstanding there, honestly. That's okay, yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, it is a misunderstanding, but from Sekijo's perspective, I wouldn't think that was a mistake at first. I'd leave too. You also get a really cool moment where Yuiga tries to tell her that she doesn't have to be afraid, and she just bursts out everything about how it's okay that she's afraid. There's a chance, just a small chance, that everything that everybody thinks could be real could actually be real. So I think my fear is justified. And Yuiga remarks that, she's pretty cute. Then Furuhashi and Takamoto show up, and this was honestly my favorite part out of the entire chapter, which is where Furuhashi sticks her head in and sees Ogata clinging to Yuiga and immediately has this full conversation with him through eye contact and hand movements. She calls him a turkey, which I loved, and tells him that she owes him one after she figures out that everything's okay. She also understands implicitly what he's trying to say, which proves that she is still the one that understands Yuiga best. And then tells Takamoto that everything's fine, which is hilarious in my opinion. That's a really good panel. This all comes to a head where, they of course leave, but Ogata wants to sleep and asks Yuiga to stick by her so that she can go to sleep, with his intent to leave after she's asleep. So he holds her hand, she goes to sleep, and he notices that she's actually super pretty, and then he's like, okay, I'm gonna leave now. And when he lets go of her hand, her immediate, asleep reaction is to grab a hold of him so he can't leave. And, right as this happens, her dad comes home. Literally, without even cutting to another page, just using half the panel, we go from that scene to it's morning, and Ogata is waking up, and Yuiga is locked in combat, just blocking to defend himself from her dad. And I laughed so hard. This was a really good chapter. Especially when you consider that not a lot happened, but we got so many good character interactions that it doesn't matter. Even Sekijo's interaction was a nice little touch. We didn't get any movement in any relationships, really. I mean, Ogata hugged him a lot, but Yuiga's been hugged by a lot of girls now, which sounds really sleazy when I word it that way. Good chapter. Next up is Dr. Stone 32, Brains and Heart. Genro does not want to go back to that toxic lake, and Senku explains that to Chrome that getting scared, breathing heavy, means death. Chrome slaps himself, follows Senku into the toxic fumes. I loved this chapter, by the way, because that setup alone had me going, okay, this is going to be a good chapter. There's crazy stuff going to happen here. And it does. Chrome sees Senku's tube, get some acid on it, and rushes to save him, only to slip. And I was like, Chrome's dead. Chrome's dead. He absolutely is dead. And there's a moment where Chrome knows he's dead. And he looks up to the sky and is just like, yep, I've accepted it. Take care of Ruri, Senku, because I'm dead. Beforehand, the old craftsman had given Genro another mask and talked to him about fear, because Genro was putting down Senku and Chrome. And the old man was like, hey, yeah, this is how fear works. Everybody's been afraid at some point in their life. and then just sets that mask down. And so when Genro shows up after that, you're like, okay, that, of course he would. But Genro shows up like a boss. He doesn't just show up and grab Chrome and drag him back. No, he shows up, runs, grabs the spear, shoves it forward so that Chrome can catch it, and then pulls him back while standing on the edge of the pool. It's crazy good. And this whole time, Genro is just like, oh man, he's terrified because Senku starts telling him that, hey, don't breathe heavy. Don't breathe heavy. If you breathe heavy, you die. And Genro is immediately like, are these masks good for nothing? And then Chrome hits him with the best thing ever. He's got to think with his head and his heart. His brains and his heart. Because nothing else has that, just them. Not nature. They're the only ones who have that. And you see the change in Genro's face immediately. As he just lets out this huge breath and then just pulls Chrome back. And you get the little tag that says, obtain sulfuric acid obtained. But that's not what we really got this chapter. Yeah, we got the sulfuric acid. But what we really got this chapter was Bodyguard Genro. Yes. Absolutely yes. Again, just 18 pages, but very, very well done. Short chapter, but so much happened in it. It looks so good. And just Genro coming back from the brink with his fear and overcoming it, and is now going to be a very dependable character. Yeah, there's a chance he'll still be afraid at points. But everybody's afraid at points. So, good job. Good job. Next up, we have Black Clover 130. And this is where I start to have my problems with short chapters this week. So Xerx returns the spell, but Langris gets rid of it anyway. And we have this moment where we had all that build-up for Xerx, and he really only got to do one attack that was immediately shut down. And it's like, but Xerx, though, he looked so cool. He was giving into his rage. He got hit a bunch, and now he's on the ground, and he's beaten, and Langris is going in for the kill. And it's just like, man, come on. I really want to see Xerx get to do some stuff. And then we get to see, it is a really cool panel, where for the first time Xerx looks scared. And Asta jumps over Xerx to block the attack. Mimosa starts healing him, and Xerx is like, stop healing me, noble. Leave me alone. And she refuses, telling him that they're all magic knights. You have Langris telling Asta that Langris himself is special. And Asta agrees. It's like, yeah, you are special. You magic knights are special. And says that the peasants had to get stronger so that they could fight alongside the magic knights. And then Asta uses Black Meteorite, and not only cuts through Langris's magic, but also his crystal. And it's just like, okay. All this build-up for this fight, all of this build-up, was just for Xerx's backstory to get revealed? And then Asta just beats him? Maybe once we get to this point in the anime, this scene, like this whole area of this arc will be better for me. Because we knew that Langris had been being used by somebody and was betraying everybody without even realizing he was doing it. It's most likely Langris anyway. We're almost pretty sure. But it feels like this specific part of the story has been going for like 20 chapters. And that's probably an exaggeration. It's probably only been like 10. But it feels like it. To get built up to this point. And this whole arc of the nobles and the peasants has been building up over the entire story. And during Asta's speech, you get to see everybody standing around all these nobles going, oh. And it's like, so you're telling me that all these nobles had never considered that the peasants were also working hard to be magic knights? Not once? And it's like, I'm not upset that Asta was the one who won the fight. I really wanted it to be Xerx, but I'm not upset that Asta won, because he is the main character. And, for instance, with My Hero Academia, we talk about how we want Deku to win. Like, you do root for your main character. The problem that I have is that this whole arc was to set up that Asta believed that Magic Knights were cool. And that peasants and nobles could both be Magic Knights, and both had to be Magic Knights, and peasants had to work harder to be Magic. We found that out in the first chapter. We don't need that again from Asta. What if instead of Asta getting up and beating Langris, Finral had gotten up and beaten Langris? Or Xerx had gotten back up and beaten Langris? Or maybe when Asta goes in for the attack, Langris vanishes and pops up behind Asta, and then goes to go for the kill, and somebody else intervenes. Obviously it tears apart the competition then, but who cares about the competition? Langris needs to be stopped. So what if, the Wizard King stopped him? Or Yami stopped him? Or Kirsch stopped him? Anybody that's not Asta has to solve every problem. And, again, the main character's going to do what the main character's going to do, but Langris had already proven to be such a threat that all of this arc basically turned into, for this part of the arc, was stall until Asta could use his power up again. And what worries me about that is that's what Bleach did. But we'll move on. Next up is Food Wars 236 from the beginning. This is also a very short chapter, and it feels like it, but there are some really good moments in it. So you immediately get the pizza reveal. They don't make you wait 5 or 6 panels for the pizza reveal. You immediately get to see that the pizza's a half and half pizza. And the judges are given one request: eat the sugar and ice side first. And you find out that Takumi expected Aizen to play dirty. He was prepared. That everything he did with this pizza was to try and get Aizen to go ahead and use the artichokes, because he messed with the sauce so that it would complement the artichokes instead of strike against the artichokes. Aizen is like, how'd you know I'd use artichokes? There's a lot of things that have serine in them. And Takumi is like, well, you don't want to hurt your teammates, so this is what you'd use. He reveals that he's done extensive research on Aizen, and that every time we saw weird looks he was giving Aizen, it's because he was watching him, he was studying him, and he wanted to be able to be sure what he was going to do. He was tracing him to copy Mimasaka, basically, but not tracing his actions, tracing his thoughts, trying to figure out what he was going to do. And, of course, Aizen is like, there's no way, and the judges are like, oh, this is great. Then you have Takumi revealing that he's breaking the limits of Italian cuisine and introducing a terzo piatto, which is a third plate, which is non-standard in Italian cuisine, with the doppio mezzaluna pizza, which is so perfect for his character that even though this series of chapters boiled down to Aizen so clever, but Takumi smarter, I didn't care, because it fits perfectly to his character. Takumi Aldini is a character that wants to prove that he's better than everybody else, but would never leave his brother behind. And so by using the Mezzaluna style, by adding 2 sides to this pizza and letting them come together, it's a perfect representation of when him and his brother cook together, which I thought was a really nice touch. And you see that it has that effect on his brother, too, where he's stunned that Takumi would do this. There's also a really small thing that I thought was really cool in this chapter, which is where the judge asks how he should eat the pizza. What is the preferred way to eat this pizza? Is it with the hands or is it with the knife and fork? Because in Italy, it's very common practice to eat with a knife and fork when you eat pizza. And of course, in America, common practice is just eat it with your hands. And in most places of the world it is. And Takumi says, no, eat it with your hands. Like, okay. Because it is a different experience. It feels more raw, eating it with your hands, whereas it feels more refined, eating it with a fork. But you also get bigger bites when you eat it with your hands as compared to eating it with your fork, because human instinct is to take a little bit, Whereas when you're holding it in your hand, you take as big a bite as you can manage. So I thought that was a really clever touch, because the judges don't normally ask questions like that. But this was a pretty good chapter. It was just very short, and the first half was something we expected about 6 chapters ago. So, not too bad. Next up, we have Robot Laserbeam 30 Resolution. Yozan is terrible at interviews. But we also get him proudly stating he's going to go pro, proudly stating he's going to become the best, and then stating he's going to complete a Grand Slam. He's going to take on every major tournament in the world and win them all is his plan. You can tell that Suzaku is excited. He's got this grin, this smirk, that can't be beat. And even Robo is shaking still. And he finally sees how serious Yozan actually is. And afterwards he goes up to talk to Yozan and declares that he too wants to go pro. And of course Takumi is like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah, this isn't a whim. I want to do it. I love golf. And Yozan is clearly excited when he hears this. And he explains to Robo that he's going pro as soon as he can, which means they won't be fighting on any amateur tournaments anymore. And he gives him a lucky coin and tells him to give it back to him the next time he sees him, which would be on the world stage. Robo and Suzaku have this good conversation where they talk about how they're going to reach pro, and Suzaku reveals that he's also going pro. And Robo says he's going to do it by working with the school, with AI Academy. And Suzaku says that he has another road to take to get pro. And that the next 3 years will change everything. And then we time skip. And there's a couple things that I'm hoping that we flash back to that we miss out on by time skipping. The first one specifically being that we don't get any of the becoming a team moments. Because Robo still wasn't really a part of that team. He just had one of the spots. We don't get to see, he was a part of the full team, but not of the regulars. We don't get to see him, choosing a caddy and getting used to that caddy. And we don't get to see him and that caddy struggle, but maybe his best friend's going to be his caddy, and if so, then they're already friends, so they should be good. I don't know. I didn't expect to get a 3-year time skip right away. I did expect to get one after we found this, but I expected it to be in like 4 or 5 chapters after we got all the setup done. Nope, we're time skipping right away, which is either going to be great, and we'll do the setup in flashbacks, or it's going to be terrible, and it's going to be, hey, we're all friends now, let's go. And I really hope that's not the case, because so far, Robot Laserbeam has been really good, and I'm looking forward to learning more about these characters, especially as we move into the pro scene. I actually expected us to be on the tournament scene for a while with amateur tournaments, as Robo would work his way up and fight competitions, but it looks like we're just going straight into it. It's almost time for pros, baby. Good luck, Robo. Next up is Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc V27, Reiji's Goal. Oh boy. Boy, do I get excited every week when Yu-Gi-Oh! Shows up. I don't get excited at all. I actually really hate reading Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc V, and if not for you, dear listeners and viewers, I wouldn't do it. I'd skip it every week. Because, oh man, these duels are so confusing. Like, the card effects that don't exist, and cards having multiple effects for no reason. Like, so they broke the rules all the time in old Yu-Gi-Oh! They broke the rules all the time in GX, they broke the rules all the time in 5Ds. I'm used to that. It's the fact that cards have multiple effects now for some reason, and then everything to do with pendulum summoning that really bothers me. But to get off of my bias, we'll get back to the actual chapter itself, which I really tried hard to like. And there are some things I really do like that I'll talk about. We have that Isaac is stealing data and sending it away on Akiba. And that's pretty cool, because even if he loses, he wants his teammates to be able to know. But then you have that Akiba is also sending data on him through his glasses. And, like, when this becomes known, and Isaac has the entire colony that they're on blown up, but then space, like, helmets are put on them just in time so that they don't die. Like, that feels, why blow up the colony? Was it just so you could get them in space so that these card effects would look cooler? Because that's what it feels like. Because the cameras are fine. They're not affected at all. They're absolutely doing fine. You go from there to everything with the Isaac summoning and tributing 3 cards to give Katadiop Trigger 7, 3 different effects, one of which makes it where spells don't work on him, one of which makes it where traps don't work on him, and one of which makes it where only mirror image effect cards can affect him. And it's like, that seems real broken, that you could do all 3 of that in one turn. But sure, you can still take him out with combat damage, so you're fine. Apparently, you can also still affect him with trap cards, because Akiba immediately is just like, I'm going to change his target. Arguably, I would say that shouldn't work. I would say that if I was reffing that match, I would say that doesn't work. Because clearly, the effect of the mirror image cards that Isaac Tribute said that all trap effects do not affect your monster. Paraphrasing, but that's basically what it said. And to be able to change his target, that means you are affecting him in some way. You're not doing anything to him other than changing his target, but you're still affecting him. Also, there were other cards that could do that already in the game. But they needed to use gravitation because gravitation allows Isaac to have a second effect that we'll talk about in a minute. So, Isaac retorts by sending DDD Supersite Zero Maxwell away, but Akiba activates DDDD Superdimensional Sovereign Emperor Zero Paradox and Knuckles effect that allows him to special summon allows him to use his Pendulum Zone to special summon a mirror image card from Isaac's hand because, Zero Gravitation makes it where both players share a deck for a turn for some reason. And this is, I assume, why they had to be in space, so that all the cards could be flying around in space and then come together to form one deck, so that Akiba could special summon the reflectors from Isaac's deck to be able to reflect and send Kennedy Up Tricker 7's attacks through each of them to reduce his attack before he fought DDDD Superdimensional Sovereign Emperor Zero Paradox featuring Dante for the Devil May Cry series, who also got a power-up because DDD Supersite Zero Maxwell, got sent away because he got banished, which doubles Superdimensional Sovereign Emperor Zero Paradox's life or attack power. Why do both of these cards have 2 effects, though? Like, Akiba wins the duel. And I want to clarify that of all the duels I've seen, this is the most confusing to me. But it was also the most interesting to me, because I was following every single move, trying to figure out what it all meant. And to be fair, part of that is because I still don't 100% grasp the pendulum system, and that's my fault. I haven't done enough research on it to be able to completely understand the pendulum deck. But the pendulum deck is not where my problems came with this duel. It was where cards suddenly had 2 effects, and it's where Akiba's family makes cards, which makes it seem like cheating. It's the problem I've had since way back in the day when Pegasus was playing. And Pegasus was like, yes, I have made duel monsters, which means that I can have any card I want. And it's like, that's not fair, though, to anyone. And the answer is obviously don't duel those people. But when those people are your main characters, really, like Akiba is the Kaiba of this series, he's the Jack. It's just like, man, cards having 2 effects, and okay, so let's tackle this. Combining the decks. How would you even begin to do that sitting at a table? Alright, your deck's mine now too for this turn. So I'm going to summon your monsters, and I'm going to take your cards out. And after the match is over, I'm going to go through every card I have till I get your cards back out of my discard pile. Why? That's so needlessly complicated. Like, I see where that could be really cool for situations like trying to get a good setup going, or if you're running a dragon deck and you want to be able to summon some of their dragons, or and you want to be able to summon some of their dragons, or if you have a situation with polymerization where you're able to pull a card out of your extra deck that you normally couldn't use by using polymerization. I can see situations that'd be really cool. It just seems like the back end, because in the anime they always have like all your cards go back to you after the duel is over. That's not how it works in real life. In real life, if you shuffled in cards with somebody else's deck, you're sitting there individually flipping through each card going, okay, this one was mine, this one was yours, this one was mine, this one was yours, and you got to rely on them being honest, because otherwise it's going to be like, no, that's actually my card. Like, no, that's super mine. I had that when I walked in. Oh, really? And then, like, a big fight happens. It seems like needlessly complicated again. I don't know. I thought this was a really cool idea, especially at the start. I was kind of hyped for it. But it very quickly has spiraled away from me. And I didn't enjoy it. And I guess that's my biggest problem with it. Finally, we have our lightning round for the week. Full Drive, Chapter 1, Dan Tamashiro. Loved it. Really good. Really good. The art is a little iffy for me at first, but it quickly won me over, especially with Hagen's grin. And then everything to do with that match at the end. Just, oof, those characters getting hype for how good their own match was with each other. Absolutely great. Looking forward to more. Hopefully this series catches on. One Piece 882, Beyond the Emperor's Expectations. 2 thumbs up again. People finally starting to realize they need to stop underestimating the Straw Hats. Katakuri using his awakening powers to turn the floor into mochi. Everything going on with the detour the Big Mom's taking. And then finally Mr. Princing at the end with Niji. 2 thumbs up. Great. My Hero Academia 157. Infinite 100%. 2 thumbs up. 100% full cow. Aries kind-hearted. Night Eye's doing some stuff. And Sugi's going to save Mirio. Even Overhaul turning into a giant monster wasn't enough to bring this chapter down for me. It was great. 2 thumbs up. Promise Neverland 60, Goldy Pond. 1 thumb up. Really solid chapter. Loved the gag of them running. Loved the subversion of the thoughts. And loved the man-eaters. But other than that, it didn't feel like a lot was going on this chapter. Just a lot of more prep. Next chapter will hopefully be a little bit different. And looking forward to that. 1 thumb up for sure. Lycopene 3, The Mysterious Compact in a Day in Lycopene's Life. 1 thumb up. Absolutely enjoyed this chapter. It's not something that I'm going to look back on and go, man, I got to read more of that. But it was something where I went, ha, that was a pretty good joke. That's pretty good you had there. We Never Learned 36. Sometimes Poignant, Solitude, and X can be the downfall of a genius. 1 thumb up. I very much enjoyed this chapter, especially everything with Furuhashi and Yuiga when they're staring at each other. But we didn't really do that much this chapter. And unfortunately, that kind of weighs it down for me. As much as I did really enjoy all of the misunderstandings and loved that moment at the end where Yuiga's blocking the dad, it still wasn't the best that We've Never Learned has given us. I enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to more, absolutely. But 1 thumb up. Brains and Heart, Dr. Stone 32. Really, really good chapter. 2 thumbs up. I loved everything to do with Chrome having to psych himself up to go into the toxic gas. The mask being proven to maybe not be good enough if they breathe too heavily. And then Bodyguard Genro. Man, just Genro showing up at the end like a boss. Standing super close and conquering his fear. And seeing the angel of death, basically, descend back down as she melts away. Because Genro has beaten her. It's like, yes, absolutely. 2 thumbs up. Black Clover 130, Burn It Into You. 1 thumb down. This chapter, this whole chapter was not great, in my opinion, for the most part. Just leading into what should have been a really hyped fight between Xerxes and Langris. And maybe it's just because I'm not a big fan of Asta still. Maybe it's just because every one of Asta's fights wound up being almost the same. But the fact that this whole arc was just a stall so Asta could use his power-up and take down Langris, and not even take him down in a really cool way, just kind of slash him once and take him down. Maybe Langris isn't done and next chapter will be better, but for this chapter, 1 thumb down. Food Wars 236 from the beginning. Completely even. There's a lot I don't like and a lot I do like. The fact that most of this chapter is stuff that we expected, and there's not really any great subversions there. Takumi didn't even do anything super special. He just changed the sauces to work better with the artichoke. But the reveal at the end that all those looks had been him watching Aizen, and then everything with Terzo Piano is great. I absolutely love that. It's great movement forward for Takumi's character. So completely even this week for Food Wars 236 from the beginning. Robot Laserbeam 30, Resolution, 1 thumb up. I'm tentatively excited. I didn't expect the time skip this soon, but seeing Yozan being terrible at interviews and seeing Robo working through everything there, I'm excited. 1 thumb up. Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc V27, Reiji's Goal, 2 thumbs down. Just gonna be honest with you, I didn't enjoy this chapter at all, really. Other than the exploding colony, that was kind of cool. But the cameras being okay, using Isaac's deck, through a second effect of a trap card and then a second effect of a monster card just to be able to win this duel I don't know. I wasn't the one dueling, but I could think of like 2 different ways that would have made this a whole lot easier. I don't know. 2 thumbs down. And that brings us to the end of the weekly Shonen Jump Breakdown for this week. My name has been Trey. This has been the Full Spectrum. He's been Waluigi. And please remember to put your comments in the section down below to let us know how you felt about these chapters this week. Did you actually really enjoy Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc V and find Isaac's deck super inventive? I thought it was really clever. I just didn't like how it was used. Then please let me know in the comment section below. And remember to always enjoy the full spectrum that Jump has to offer.